2/3 of the working men's clubs flourish among the big kitchens of the industrial north, where blackened pots and pans of factories burn and bubble above the coal seams. Around the great stove of Sheffield, when miners and steel workers end the day, they emerge with a strong tradition. Get home, get washed, get fed, get out. On the smouldering rim of Rotherham, the homeward trudge will often lead to Greasbrough and its social club. Here, a new generation has left its cloth cap on the hat rack in the search for bowler-hatted entertainment. Half the audience, of up to 1,000 a night, will be women, where once the clubs were aggressively masculine. The wearing of mufflers is discreetly discouraged. The club wants to give a facelift to the old image. Here in this new palace of varieties, it's a far cry from the sawdust-covered barns and the spittoons of 30 years ago. While some of the old idealism of self-help and community spirit is preserved, the main emphasis now is on pleasure and entertainment. Owned and operated in their spare time by club members, with all profits ploughed back into amenities which are a challenge to any. Old time in the dance hall is a reminder of the recent past, when the club was a small British Legion hut. Today it's 2 large concert halls and 3 bars. Upholstered lounge chairs have replaced the more tender memories of wooden stools. It echoes to the crash of the one-armed bandit, the clink of glasses, and the liturgy of Tom Bowler. The key to the attraction of the clubs is the better and more expensive entertainment. Among these very clubbable Yorkshiremen, there's a vitality not apparent in the south, a lusty will to enjoy themselves that must be matched by the successful performer. The first-class lighting and stage system cost the club £5,000. The accent now must be on presentation. One of the great attractions of the clubland circuit, Jack Rigby, appears on the same stage as big names like Johnny Ray, Adam Faith, and, it's hoped, Sammy Davis Jr. Comics must be able to turn on the salty stuff. The humour is direct. At times it leaves little to the imagination, but a good turn is rewarded with roars of approval. One way of paying for entertainment is by gambling, 2 fruit machines returning £60 a week. But the main cost of the shows is borne by the profits from a rising tide of beer. On a Friday night they will drink 3,500 pints. The clubs offer low beer prices, and some breweries guarantee loans for building. The working men's clubs of Britain had a turnover from sales of drink last year of £67.5 million. It's meant new thoughts about entertainment.
And now, then, it gives me great pleasure to welcome to Greasbrough Social Club
Bob Monkhouse is one of the well-known names who found the road to Greasbrough. Almost 1,000 people a night will come from as far as 50 miles away to see stars like this in the flesh, brought to them by entertainment secretaries who, with the growing affluence of clubs, are thinking beyond the small local 10-bob a night acts to the big time.
Any news about Shirley Bassey?
Greasborough's secretary, Les Booth, a printer in the daytime, has growing power in the variety world and is spoken of as an impresario.
Well, do your best. All right, and follow Sammy Davis through. OK, Claude. Right. Bye-bye, thanks a lot.
Les, what gave you the idea for all this?
Well, all the theatres were closing. I went along to the Sheffield Lyceum one night to see Jewell and Warris. Sheffield comedy duo, two of my favourite comedians. There were 12 people sat in the stalls. And I thought, well, why can't these artists come to Greasbrough?
What made you think they would, to a place like Greasbrough, which hardly anyone's ever heard?
Well, why shouldn't they come to Greasbrough? I mean, chilly atmosphere in the theatres. There can't be any other atmosphere if there are only about 12 people in. And Greasborough's been creating this atmosphere for quite a long time. And that was our intentions, to get bigger and better all the time until we got the top acts. We knew once we got them coming along, we should eventually get the top act. There's been no doubt about it in our minds all along that we shouldn't succeed in this venture.
But to get the top act, you have to pay £1,000 a week. Where's it all come from?
Well, the sale of beer. We've taken £118,000 over the bar this year.
How have you tried to change the old idea and conception of a working man's club?
the old atmosphere of the game at dominoes, which is quite all right, I agree and appreciate with that, but you find these days that more wives are interested in working men's clubs. They want to come along. They don't want to sit watching a game of dominoes. They want to take part in the functions of the club.
Jobs for women mean emancipation from men and from the old drudgeries. But why don't they stay home and watch television?
Well, because those days have gone, I think, now. I go out to work and earn a bit of extra money. So therefore we're able to go out more often than we used to. I bring my husband with me, or he brings me, whichever you like to say. I bring him, actually.
You pay for him, in effect, with the money you earn?
Well, in effect, I suppose, yes.
Why don't you stay home and watch television?
I think it's a bore. I've seen too much of it.
What difference does the club make, then, to you?
Well, it's like seeing theatre again, except I can have a pint of beer at the same time.
5 minutes walk up the hill from the social club should be something more nearly approaching the ideas of the Unitarian minister, the Reverend Henry Solly, who founded the club movement a century ago, intending it for grateful housewives as a teetotal alternative to the gin palaces for the working men of the day. But ironically, the little Methodist chapel in Greasbrough is another, an older, working man's club. Inside, what looks like a hymn board is a club lottery result. The old piano plays where the pulpit stood, but the tunes are both ancient and modern. It's a club favoured by older people, more like the cooperative pubs the working men's clubs are often thought to be. The old nostalgia will soon seem out of place, but even here there'll soon be carpets on the floor and extensions. The brewery is lending £12,000.
With nothing to borrow I will say such wonderful things to you. There will be such wonderful things to you.
The gulf that separates this from the big club is wider than the 5-minute walk between them. In demanding here the sophistication of the West End, the club is reluctant to part with its traditions of a more virile past and their present vigorous nature. As Bob Monkhouse finished his act at the Greasbrough Social, I asked him how the club audiences compared with others.
There is nothing like this anywhere else, Michael. Nothing at all, not quite like this. Certainly not in the south of England. This is a strictly northern and Midlands phenomenon, northeast too.
You work terribly hard. Do you know any place where you work harder than this?
I suppose one works harder and longer in summer show or pantomime, but when you get out on a stage in a club like this, you've got to deliver. And you've got to be a pro, otherwise the audience will lose interest in what you're doing. But if you do deliver, they're the best audience in the world.
A lot of the material here seems to be very robust, to say the least. Very bawdy. Now, why is this, do you think?
I don't think it's bawdy. I think it's adult. I think this audience is extremely quick-witted, the club audience I'm talking about. I think they've had a load of, shall we say, disinfected pap from television for a long time, which they like very well in their own homes, but when they get together in a community, they want to hear something stronger, brighter, gayer, and a little bit more engaged to the adult taste.
Certainly it's rough, though, you would agree.
No, I wouldn't agree it's rough. I think what it is it's grown up, as distinct from children's hour entertainment. I don't think it is bawdy, and I don't think it transcends any bounds of taste whatsoever, because I think the general trend of public morality will always give you your own automatic censorship.
But would you agree with me that none of the material that you and the other comedians, let me be fair, use in a place like this could be used on television?
No, it couldn't be used on television, because television couldn't stomach it, and I can quite imagine that every one of these people in the audience would be offended if they heard certain jokes in their own home, which they can thoroughly enjoy, either in parties or in a place like this. In other words, you will exchange a joke at a party in your own home when you've got a group that you'll enjoy, which you would censor out if you were sitting with your children, the vicar, or your grandmother. Here, no vicars, no grandmothers, just people.
After the show, there's not far to walk. An often empty road in Greasbrough becomes briefly like the M1. Beer and entertainment. A mutual flame, which, fanned by more money, has led to what looks like the beginnings of a revolt against television and the resurrection of the music hall.